Hello everybody, Gisele Grenier here. In this video lesson today, we're going to be talking about blue, and holy smokes, do I have a lot of blue. The series on blue is going to be broken up, I think, into 6 videos because they can get pretty long. And I'm going to be including 2 challenges and separately, and then a challenge in this one as well. The reason why blue is going to be so intensive because blue is one of the primary colors and it's really the basis of all palettes. And you need blue obviously to make anything violet. You need blue to make something green. So blue is just there. Blue's in nature, the sky, the water, it's in clothing, denim. You know, it's one of those colors. So we're going to be doing identifying colors that are in my limited palette, extended palette, and then a range of colors, other blues that I have, and I don't use these anymore, but they're in my stash. And then in another video, we're going to take these colors and we're actually going to color match them. So you're going to learn, as we did with all the other videos, you're going to learn to take a color or a swatch or a magazine clipping or something and how to match that color with what you have. All right. So what we're going to be working with today is phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, sapphire blue, aquamarine, 2 cerulean blues, Prussian blue hue, and blue gray. And I have them on my palette listed out, and then I've got some challenge colors over here, which we'll talk about later. I'm working with the DecoArt Traditions and the DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics because the pigment information is on the bottle and on the tube. So that's a bonus when you're working with paint. So I want to get started first, and if you've been following for a while, you know what happens when I work with phthalo blue. I always end up getting it on me. Oh, I forgot to put some white out. So we'll talk about phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is a blue that leans towards green. It's a synthetic, and it is super powerful. You only need a little bit. So I'm going to put this out here just to show you. I'm not going to clean my brush. I'm going to put it right there. And then I'm going to put some white, about some extra white in here. And let's put that over there. Pick up my brush just to show you that I'm not cleaning it out. I'm going to pick up just a glob of white and mix it right here. It is so powerful. I'm going to do the same thing with ultramarine blue just to show you the difference. Phthalo blue is one of those colors that, I never used to be a fan of it, just because it was so strong. But if you learn how to work with it, you'll find that you go to it a lot. With phthalo blue, you don't need to have any greens. But if you're a landscape painter, it might make it easier for you if you had green. Okay, now I'm going to take my brush. I'm just going to blot it on the paper towel just to wipe out the excess. I'm going to pick up more white. You can see how far this goes. It's a very high staining pigment. It'll go really far. So if you look at this automatically, well, what do you think of when you look at this, what it could be used for? Wipe out the excess, pick up more white. So you can go really far. I'm not going to go this far with all the others, but just to show you that I can go on and on. And all I'm doing is I'm blotting it out on the paper towel, just picking up more white. This is a nice color to use for a sky that's going over water that is where the water is primarily green. A nice reflective color. Now I'm going to rinse my brush. So you saw how far that went, right? Phthalo blue is PB15. And you can get different types of phthalo blues, and that's all the way the manufacturer works. I'm using a standard phthalo blue. Ultramarine blue is a blue that leans towards violet. Now your pop quiz, if I can remember, I have to remember to ask these at the end as well. I want you to check out this ultramarine blue. Actually, ultramarine blue now is all made with synthetics. Your pop quiz is how was ultramarine blue made way back? How was it made? Right now it's all made synthetically. How was it made organically way back? So you saw that I mixed that up. Okay, I've got the paint in my brush. I'm going to pick up some white, do the exact same exercise. This is where you really see that it leans towards violet. Now as I'm going to take that, I'm not going to clean my brush, I'm going to pick up more white. Really work that in, same as the other one. You can see it's not as strong. I have to blot my brush now because I have so much paint on there. Blot my brush, pick up some more white, work it in. The tinting strength isn't as strong with ultramarine blue, but you can tell it's a very, very different blue, towards violet, towards green. So typically, and we're going to be doing a video on this, a video lesson, typically ultramarine blue is a go-to when painting a sky. If you need a baby blue color, see there's almost nothing left. I really have to work the bristles in there. Not to say it's a bad pigment, it's just not as high in tinting strength. So phthalo blue and ultramarine blue are in my limited palette. Every time I'm painting, depending on what it is, I'll have one or the other or both. This is probably one of the only times where I do have both on the palette. If I need to make, or I don't want to use green, I'll use phthalo blue. But definitely, if I had to choose one color to have on my palette, it would be ultramarine blue. But usually I'll have both in my limited palette. Now let's move over to some mixed paints. So these are just paints that you would just pick up because you like the color. You know, you looked at the store and you saw and you know, oh, I really like this color. Just to show you how often I use it, this is dried out. It's all dried out. And I only use these colors now for color mixing exercises. Sapphire blue is made with PB15, made with phthalo blue, PB29, ultramarine blue, and PW6, white. It's a really pretty blue. And using mixed paints, as we covered off before, is useful if you're using a paint, the same paint or the same mix over and over and over again. It's really pretty. And we're going to learn to make these colors in another lesson. So you're going to take all your blues and you're going to, you know, have your grid or whatever and count the number of grids and have those paints. And if you have like 30 blues, take the top 10 best quality blues. And you're going to do this chart. So the pure pigments at the top and then create your value scale. The next one is aquamarine. And this is a beautiful color. Now this one here though is made with PG7, which is a green, PB15, which is phthalo blue, and PW6, which is white. Okay, although you really could say this is a green, it does have blue in it. Let's get some white, go in there. Look how strong that is. Now, where does this lean on the color wheel, do you think? So this is going to be pop quiz number 2. Taking a look at this, where do you think this leans on the color wheel? There we go. And clean that. Paper towel. Paper towel's getting all smushy. You can see that this sapphire blue having PB15 and PB29, so obviously it has a blue that leans towards green and a blue that leans towards violet. PB15 being the first one, you think, okay, well that's going to be the primary one. When I look at this, I really see a neutral, and that could be because it's the two different blues, or it's more of a neutral. If I had to pick where it goes, I'm thinking it probably leans more towards maybe a bit of violet. But this one here is very obvious where it leans on the color wheel. Very, very obvious. So I want you to tell me where you think that leans. Now the two cerulean blues. Now these cerulean blues, PB35 both, one's a Deco Art Media Fluid Acrylics and one's Traditions. The Fluid Acrylics version is semi-transparent where the Traditions version is opaque. That's what the bottle says. This is what I have in my limited palette. So very much semi-transparent. It actually should have been, I printed off some new charts, which has grids underneath to show. Just want to show you. Oh, where are they? Ah, come on. Of course, now I can't find them. Oh, seriously, bear with me. Hang on. There we go. I've got these new grids now with this, and that's great for showing the transparency of paint. It's just too bad I just, made those up so late in the game. So cerulean blue on both is a blue that leans towards green. You can see this does not go far. This one here, the fluid acrylics, doesn't go far. And they're going to take the cerulean blue in Traditions. The bottle says opaque. It never comes out opaque for me. It comes out semi-transparent. Even the oil that I have, it's semi-transparent. Even though the bottle says opaque, or the tube says opaque. Not very strong. So why would you use cerulean blue? Well, it's fantastic for seascapes. Okay, that's one thing that's a given. But it's also nice depending on the type of portrait work you do. It's nice to kind of tone down the skin tones. So they're pretty much the same. I have these in my extended palette, but in another video, I'm going to show you how to make that so you don't have to buy it, because it is an expensive, a more expensive pigment. Prussian blue hue. This is a color that's very, very common in painting projects, but it's made differently by all. Let's try that again. All manufacturers make it different. There isn't a set formula for Prussian blue hue. As with any of the other mixes, manufacturers each have their own mix. This is really dark, so we have to see the the true underlying color. Pick up white and come in here. Look at that. Well, Prussian blue hue is made with PB15 and PBK7. Well, PB15 is phthalo blue, and we haven't gone through PBK, which is black. We haven't talked about those yet, but it's just black. Phthalo blue and black. And because it's made with phthalo blue, it's going to go far. Pick up a bit more white. There we go. There we go. And then the next one, the last one actually, is blue gray. And this one's made with PB15 and PBK7, so it's made with the same mixture as Prussian blue hue, and then adding white to lighten it. Well, if we took this one here, which is PB15, PBK7, if we already took this and added white, does technically this mix should do the same thing? Well, not really. As you can see, it's already light, not even close. So if you look at this, Decor has added more black to this mix. So instead of having to buy Prussian blue hue and buy blue gray, just have phthalo blue and black, and you make up a wide variety of these mixes. You don't have to buy the pre-mixed bottles. But in saying that, if it's a mix that you make all the time, and it would just save you time, buying it pre-mixed, go ahead. My job is to teach you how to learn about color, especially in those times where you run out of paint and you can't get to the store to buy it. You got to know your colors. There we go. So simply, they've just added more black to this mix. There we go. So look at all those colors. This one really stands out, doesn't it? Really stands out. So out of everything, so other than this being more neutral with the black, leans more towards green, leans more towards green, leans more towards green. This one's really neutral, leans more towards violet, leans more towards green. I want you to tell me, and this is so obvious what this one is, okay? It's so obvious. The first color is phthalo green blue, and then you have phthalo blue. Well, phthalo green being the first color is going to be most prominent, so that's why it leans towards green. There you go. I just gave you the answer to the pop quiz question. All right. So I don't even remember what I was supposed to ask you. What was the first? I asked you two questions, didn't I? I don't remember what the other one. Oh, okay. Well, here, let me make up another question. So the formal pop quiz question. So as you're making up your paints, you've got your charts here, and let's say you want to, you want to do some color mixing and you want to identify some colors or whatever. What's the first thing that you need to look for? If you want to see what a paint is made of, what's the first thing you do? Well, you obviously look on the bottle to see what's in it, right? What if there's no information on the bottle? So give me some options of what you can do to identify what's in the paint. That's your pop quiz question. Now, your challenge. Let me entertain you. Let me use the grid chart here. Let me put this aside. So your challenge is going to be identifying these colors here. And we're going to do something with these in an upcoming video. I'm just making a value scale here. This is cobalt teal hue, the fluid acrylics. Information is not on the bottle. I know what's in it, but let's pretend that we don't know what's in it. And then this one here is primary cyan. And I'm going to get white in there so you can see the true underlying color. Your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is going to be to identify what do you think is in these paints? Just from what I'm making. Now the answers are going to be different because what you see on your computer monitor, laptop, your iPad or Android tablet, whatever it is that you're using, all colors on devices are calibrated differently. So other than it's blue, there really isn't going to be a super wrong or super right answer because all our devices are calibrated differently. And this one here is peacock teal. So all I need to know is, where do you think the colors lean on the color wheel? We already know they only lean two ways, right? A blue will either lean towards violet or a blue will lean towards green. That's the only way it can go. It won't go anywhere else. So I want you to tell me, so we'll identify them as number 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want you to comment below where in the color wheel you think each of these colors lean based on what I just showed you. And you'll notice I'm not bringing out all the colors. Actually, what I'll do this. That way you don't get confused about what's in the colors. There we go. So two are craft paints and the other one is the fluid acrylics. The information is not on the bottle. All right, so that's your challenge. Your pop quiz is, what's the first thing to do when you wanted to know what a paint is made out of? The first thing we do is look at the bottle, but what if there's nothing on the bottle? What are different things that you can do? And I asked you, I think, another question, which I don't remember what it is, but if you remember, just rewind and go back to it. Okay, depending on where you're watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to go to the description and click one of the two links to either go to the community or the Facebook page and post your pictures and questions over there. I'm not engaging on YouTube for the color mixing videos because you can't post pictures in YouTube. So I'm only working over there, primarily in Facebook. That's where I'm doing all my stuff. All right, so really work on this lesson. Create your value scales with the blues that you have, because you're going to need this for the upcoming lessons. All right, so I'm going to clean up. Get ready for those. So until I see you in those lessons, stay inspired.